The South Florida Times is speaking with Fort Lauderdale Police Chief Frank Adderley and about his department and his relationship with disgraced attorney Scott Rothstein. Chief, what was your relationship with Scott Rothstein?
We had a friendly relationship. I would say he was an acquaintance of mine. Obviously, he was a prominent businessman here in our city, gave a lot to charity, and a very active political person here in town. I kind of met him, around in the city and at Ultimate Cigars, where we had a mutual friend that owns the cigar store, Mo, that's located in the North Federal Highway in the city of Fort Lauderdale.
And explain why you showed up at an accident scene where Scott Rothstein was also present.
Mo was actually a passenger in one of the vehicles involved in the accident. I received a phone call from Scott Rothstein indicating that Mo was seriously injured at that accident. I wasn't too far away from the actual scene itself, and I drove over to that area. Initially, I was led to believe that he might have broken his leg. It later turned out that it wasn't as serious as it was led to believe. I later had communications with Rothstein, who indicated that later that evening that it wasn't as serious as we thought it would have been.
And when you say Mo, that is the owner of Ultimate Cigars, the smoke shop.
Correct. He's an individual that I knew before I met Scott Rothstein. I've been a customer for Mo's for the last 4 or 5 years, and I knew him before I met Scott Rothstein.
Did you have any communications with the officer on the scene about the accident, or give any directions to the officer on the scene?
I gave no direction to the investigation, no directions to the officers as to how to handle that investigation.
Did you speak to anyone at the scene?
Had a conversation with Mo. I did have a conversation with Rothstein, who indicated that he was going to personally take Mo to Holy Cross Hospital to see a orthopedic, and I was led to believe that that did happen. The officer that investigated the accident, the only communications I had with him was to ask if he needed any additional service, and he did indicate that he had a videotape of the actual accident itself.
What about attending football games with Scott Rothstein? Did you attend any football games, and were any of them free?
No, I insist on paying for my ticket to the football game. The first one I did attend, I was invited to fly on a jet that I was led to believe owned by Ted Morris. He was the one that invited me to fly on that particular, on his jet. And I kind of viewed it as, here's my friend who owns a jet inviting me on a trip that he was going to take with or without Frank Adderley. I did not view it as a gift per se at the time. It was not brought to my attention prior to me going on that trip that this was something that would be considered a gift. Had it been, I would have done something different. I would insist on paying my part of it, just like I insist on paying for my ticket into the football game. Now that I know the rule, then I'm educated on the process. But the ticket itself from Scott Rothstein, I paid for.
Okay. So have you now declared the flight as a gift?
Yes, after I consulted with our city attorney, Harry Stewart, he says that it needed to be declared, and I filled out the proper paperwork in which he directed me to, and I completed the process.
All right. And Ted Morris, that is the family that owns Bayview Cadillac and other
Yes.
dealerships. What about the photos that you appeared in with Scott Rothstein at a Humane Society event? How did that come about?
A friend of mine, Ron Pico, who was one of the sponsors for this event that occurred at Coleridge Country Club, invited me to the event because he had a table that was comped to him as one of the sponsors. And he just made a request that I show up at the event and make a donation to the Humane Society. I've always been a supporter of the Humane Society and what they do throughout our county, and we have a great relationship with them at the police department. It was an opportunity for me to show my support, and I did that. I went to the event. I wrote a check as a donation to the event, for the event, and when I arrived at the event, I took photos with a number of people. A number of people requested to take photos with me because, I'm the police chief in Fort Lauderdale, and I get that request quite often. I'm going to say I took photos with about 15 or 20 other people other than the Rothsteins that day. And this was not a Scott Rothstein event. This was a charity event for the Humane Society.
All right, Scott Rothstein is part owner of the Bova Prime restaurant, and some people seem to think that you frequented that restaurant. And have you ever received any free meals or gifts or had an account set up by Scott Rothstein at Bova Prime?
Scott Rothstein did not have an account set up for Frank Adderley to come in and eat and drink for free. That did not happen. I did not go to Bova to hang out with Scott Rothstein. I have a group of friends in town that I've known for many years that I met with at Bova Prime, and I paid for my meals and I paid for my drinks.
All right, and you've never received anything free from Scott Rothstein. That's and no account has. There's been some media reports that you had an account set up, and that's not true.
That is not true.
All right. Is there anything else that you would like to say to the public about this entire ordeal and Scott Rothstein that has not been said or explained?
Well, I think we need to look at Scott Rothstein for who he was and now the guy that he is. Who he was a successful businessman. He had 70 plus attorneys that worked in his firm. He interacted with charities throughout our city, throughout our county, and he dealt with directors of those charities. He dealt with politicians who he made had a number of fundraisers and donations to them. And I kind of think it's unfair here that the police department is the only person, based on the people that he was in contact with, that should have figured out that he was a part of a Ponzi scheme. I find it, that the police is definitely an easy target for any type of subject. And I just think that it's unfair that we're being portrayed as the person that, quote, missed the red flag when no one gave us the red flag. No one ever called the police department and said that this guy was conducting an illegal activity. No one contacted Crime Stoppers indicating that this illegal activity was being taken place in our city. So for someone to say we missed the red flag and no one showed us the red flag, I think it's unfair.
Thank you, Frank Adderley, Chief of Fort Lauderdale Police Department.